Okay, good afternoon, everybody. This is Elizabeth Frenzel, and I'm going to be hosting today the second part of our vertical markets training. I would like to remind everybody to please put your phones on mute if you have not already done so. I had to mute some people yesterday just so that some background noise could be canceled out, so I'd appreciate it if you go ahead and mute your phones for me. And I want to make sure, can everybody hear me okay? Is anybody having a problem hearing what I'm saying, or does anybody see a screen other than a screen that right now says CAP software? Okay. Well, then with that being said, I'm going to go ahead and jump into what we're going to cover today. Yesterday we covered 4 vertical markets out of the 8 that CAP really custom tailors our product to. Those included gift shops and boutiques, apparel, jewelry, and liquor stores. And today we're going to move into the pool and spa, tire and auto parts stores, hardware, and lawn and garden. And what we're going to do is review kind of what the specialty retail needs were for the 4 markets that we covered yesterday. And then we're going to go into a little more detail as to what these 4 markets are going to be covering, because the 4 markets today really have a service background related to them in addition to just what a standard retail operation will be. We're also going to talk about how CAP Sellwise really fulfills the needs of what these retail markets have. And then we'll discuss in detail what each one of these markets really can use on a specific level within the Sellwise program to help make their operation that much smoother and easier for the retail merchants. We will cover the suggested selling method that we covered yesterday, just as a reminder for how to really build a strong sales presentation and make sure that you leave with a good reputation, a good mark left on the merchant so that they'll call you back. And then we're going to go through my demo data so that I can make some suggestions for you and help you be ready for a demo that you may do in the future. So with that being said, let's talk about the specialty retail needs that we covered yesterday. If you weren't in the trainings yesterday, we had 4 markets, as I mentioned, that we covered, and most of those markets really have the same kind of idea in mind as to what they want when they take care of their business. They're looking for a system that's easy to use. They want to be able to customize screens. They need flexible inventory options, so whether it's creating promo pricing or mix and match pricing or just being able to do daily promos. They're also looking for ways to track their customers. Most specialty retail stores are small mom and pop businesses, and getting customers to come back is really imperative. So we talked about some loyalty marketing options yesterday and loyalty tracking. And then they need the obvious, accurate reporting and tags options. But when we go into the 4 markets that we're going to cover today, there are quite a few more details that are needed because the markets that we cover today, they're service related. When we talk to pool and spa stores, these are not just stores that are going to be selling chlorine products and floaties and things, diving rings. These are businesses that are going to be going out and sending technicians out to clean pools and to service pumps that have broken and to do installs of spas and things of that nature. When we talk about tire and auto parts stores, these stores are not only custom tailoring their business to just selling tires and doing installs, they also have disposal fees. They also have mechanics that are going to come in from other businesses that might be purchasing, and they need to be able to purchase on account. Hardware stores have a really robust inventory in multiple departments that work within that. They need to have warranty information put on receipts, and they need to make sure that they can track serial numbers for products that are going out. Hardware stores also even rent out equipment, so they need the ability to work with that with the standard needs. Lawn and garden stores, they have cost centers that they need set up so that when they do purchase orders, the purchase orders can be filed for each cost center appropriately. So let's talk about how CAP fulfills all the needs that these retail merchants have. There are quite a few, as I just mentioned, but let's go into them more on a one-on-one basis. Pool and spa stores. Pool and spa, as I mentioned, they need serial number tracking. They have rentals that need to be done, pool equipment that needs to go out, and they want to track who has it and when it needs to be returned. Pool and spa stores also have service members, as I mentioned, that go out to do service-related things. So they need computers that can actually detach from the network, go on site, and be able to ring out sales and then reconnect to the network when they return so that everything is tracked accordingly. They need to be able to set up serial number tags. They need shelf tags. They need tags that they can put on products with prices, so on and so forth. You kind of get the idea. The same goes for tire and auto parts stores. A lot of the same things really matter to them, but recurring billing is important. They have businesses that come in and want to do on-account charges, and then they want to be able to send them statements. We can do that within our system. They also have work orders. When somebody drops off a car and they want an oil change, they need to be able to print out work orders for that car, and they want to make sure that they can track the mileage and track the last time an oil change was done. And so our system can do that for them. Hardware and paint. Departments are really key for hardware stores. We obviously don't work with big box retailers such as Lowe's or Home Depot or Big Lots or anything like that, but when you walk into one of those stores, they're a fairly decent representation of a hardware store on a smaller scale when you look at the different aisles. When you see that one aisle has lumber and then the next aisle has key cutting and then an aisle after that has paint, we need to be able to set up multiple departments for that kind of business so that they can track their business and track the sales specifically to those departments. And we can really even filter down to sub-departments and classes, so that's big for them. And then we can even do line remarks. When you have somebody that mixes paint, they may want to track what the paint formula was. So when they go and they wring out a can of paint, they can create a line remark in cap and put what the formula was and have it in the sales history so that it's easily referenced if a customer comes back to get another gallon filled. Rentals are really key with this business as well. They like to sell out equipment and or rent out equipment so that people can go home and build their deck and then bring back the equipment when they're done. And again, they'll also use work orders. And then lawn and garden, they're going to use things just like serial numbers and cost centers, as I mentioned, and they're going to do rentals. Again, they're going to have people that are going to want to go out and rent out, I don't know, something, you know, a jackhammer or something of that nature and use it for a weekend and then return it. So they're going to want to track that. And they're also going to want to have accounts receivables. So CAP has a lot of ways to work with service-based retailers, but they're not used as often as what one may think. So what I encourage you guys to do is keep track of this. We'll post these materials onto the website next week once these trainings are complete. And you'll be able to print this out, and when you have a demo that comes about, use this as a reference guide so that you can look back and go, okay, we covered hardware. What were the real key indicators as to what was needed in that industry? CAP's been around since 1978. I mentioned this yesterday. We really have custom tailored our product to what our retailers have told us over the years that they need. So these actual representations right here, these come straight from the customers. This is not something that CAP just assumes somebody has just based on, you know, a thought as to how retail works. This is actually from existing customer bases that we've had for quite some time. So please make sure you keep track of this so you can use it for an agenda in the future. So with that being said, let's look at Pool and Spa. The idea of this page is to really help you when you want to create a demo. If you know that there's a pool and spa company that you're going to go out and visit, you can look at the inventory and you can know that what you need to do is you're going to need to set up serialized items to show customers. When you set up those serialized items, it's really important in pool and spa and even hardware, you'll see this as well, that extended descriptions are key for them. This is a place in an inventory record. It's the last tab that we have, and I'll show you when we get to demo data. But it's where people can go in and they can type out extended description information or warranty information or specific return details for an item so that when it's rung up on the sale, the description will appear directly underneath that item, and it's longer than just one line. Okay, so I'll show you how to set that up today. It's very useful in this type of environment. You'll also want to be able to show them how they can sell an item as a work order and attach a name to it. And the idea behind a work order is like what I mentioned before in an auto parts store. If somebody comes in and they want to get their oil changed, you would put the item into the sale and then you would save it as a work order. And when you do so, it's going to bring up a screen so that somebody can type in some notes. And it's like tracking the process from start to finish so that each one of the members of the team for the merchant can see what has been done, what has not been done, when orders have been promised. And then when the order is complete, they suspend it down, and when the customer comes in to retrieve whatever item that has been worked on, they can just go ahead and ring it out, and all of those notes are saved into the business name record. I would also make sure that since you have serialized items to show, you also show serial number reports. There are 3 different reports that we have. One is acquisition and disposition, and that is going to reflect when an item was purchased and a serial number was attached to it, and when that item actually sold out and to whom it was actually sold. You also have a serial numbers in stock report, so a merchant can look and see how many of item X they have on hand. And then it will also show a serial number sold report. Now this is really useful for rental items. Serial number sold reports will show what items were sold out to which customer and how long that item has actually been out of the business. That way, if they want to charge late fees or things related to that, they can actually look at that report and keep track on items. Now for tags, tags are really key for Pool and Spa. You're going to want to make sure that when you have your tags module, you create a serial number tag template so that somebody can see what actually happened within the business. Customers are generally very visual people. They're working on their computers all day long, and their employees are just the same. And when they're looking for something, if they can see it, or if they even didn't know that they were going to ask the question, if you answer it before they ask it, that's really key. So having templates set up gives them an idea to see multiple options that are available to them, and that adds value for you. And then if they want to see how the tag is created, go ahead and create a tag for them. But having the templates keeps you from having to do that on the fly if you don't need to. Under names, this is where I would go in and review work orders and just make sure that work orders show in the notes, give them an idea of what their employees will look at. And just so you know, when work orders are created, they can also be printed and attached to specific items. So the notes will not only appear in a customer name record, they'll also appear on a piece of paper. Then have customers set up in your business where they can charge on account. Make sure that one of your sample names actually has a charge that has been done and maybe has even an account balance, so that you can go through and show the merchants what an account history will look like, how to issue statements, and even show them how they can charge for late fees and things of that nature. And then under configuration, to make sure that your demo database is set up correctly, you're going to want to have pick lists turned on. You're going to want to make sure that you set up rental department, or set up a rental department and have it configured to be used. And then have a conversation about mobile mode. As I've discussed, or as I mentioned, Pool and Spa stores have multiple service techs that are going to go out throughout the day and perform maintenance on different equipment throughout the city. Mobile mode enables them to take a snapshot of their inventory and take a laptop with them so that if they need to sell a product or charge a service fee, they can do that on the spot, and they can even use credit cards as long as they have wireless internet. And when they come back to the business, they can reconnect to the network, and all of the information will sync back in. So that helps Pool and Spa stores be that much more viable in the industry. They don't lose sales because they don't have somebody that can charge on the spot. It helps them have more value to their business. Make sure under configuration you also turn on serial number tracking. And please make sure that you have a sample printer driver loaded. This just helps to keep errors from occurring, because things such as pick lists actually do require that you have a printer turned on in order for them to work. So that'll make your life that much easier. Does anyone have any questions regarding Pools and Spa? Okay. Tire and auto parts are going to be very similar. You still need to set up a serialized item. Make sure you show the reports. Tire and auto parts stores use the matrix as well. Now, matrix is generally used in apparel locations. This is where you can set up colors, shapes, and sizes, or colors, styles, and sizes, whatever you need, so that you can create a grid format of inventory items. We have had various tire and auto parts stores use this so they can set up different tire styles, tire sizes. I don't know that much about tires, so I can't really go too in-depth, but they use this so that they can track what they actually have on hand and review it quickly in a grid so that they have a much better visual representation rather than for the number of tires that they're going to have in their business, rather than looking up an inventory main lookup screen, which they're going to have to scroll through page after page after page to try to find an inventory item. Extended descriptions are also going to matter for tire and auto parts stores, again, for warranty information, for return documentation and things of that nature. And then work orders will be important as well. Tags are going to be the same story that we have for pool and spa stores. Having sample tags set up is just really key for any of these industries because that's just something that makes their lives that much easier. Under names, again, set up work orders and make sure that they see the work order note, have a balance on account, and show the account history. And then the same kind of setup and configuration is going to be necessary for this business as well. Hardware adds in a little bit of a different need. Hardware, as I mentioned, is going to really use rental items. Rental items in CAP work in this capacity. You have to set up a rental department, and you have to configure it in the store setting, or excuse me, the phone shipping and lottery section of configuration. And once you have a rental department set, then what you do is you create your rental items. Now, rental items are items that need to be serialized. And the idea behind that is that somebody's going to come in, they're going to rent a piece of equipment, and they're going to take it out of the store for use for whatever period of time is there. When you have the item set up in inventory and it's serialized, you need to attach it to that rental department that you configured in configuration. Doing so tells the system that there is this item that has been removed from the store and it's currently being used, but when that item comes back, it's going to know that that is an item that's available for return at $0 value rather than the price that the item was sold out for. That's what the rental department does for you. It allows people to rent items out at the standard list price and then automatically return it at $0. So you have to set that up, and I'll show you where that needs to be done. Then you're going to also want to add extended descriptions. And I also recommend extended descriptions on rental items. This helps to make sure that return policies and procedures are documented correctly and that customers have tracking as to what the merchant's expectations are for those items once they're out. Then the other things are very similar to what we discussed before, work orders, on-account customers, recurring bill, account history. All of these things really are pretty similar. Under hardware, the one more thing that I would add, let me remind you, is the item remarks or line remarks. And we'll go through that when we look at the actual demo data so that you can see how specifically that item would work for you. And under configuration, again, you're going to want to turn on recurring billing, and invoice tracking is another option that I would definitely turn on, especially for hardware. When you have people that are billed on account and they want to make payments, it's nice to have the payment reflect towards the bill that it actually generated the fee. So when you turn on invoice tracking, it allows that to happen. And then the last bit that's very different for hardware stores is that they work off of multiple units of measure. Hardware stores, they sell rope by the foot. They sell nuts and bolts by the pound. They sell hammers as an each option. So we want to make sure that there are multiple units of measure set so that people can see that they can work with scalable items as well as various different types of tracking for units of measure. And last but not least, lawn and garden. Lawn and garden is going to have the same kind of things that we've discussed before. The one different caveat that I'd like to add in is that lawn and gardens have the ability to have cost centers set up. Anybody can actually have cost centers set, but we see it mostly for lawn and garden stores because they may actually have an outdoor section versus an indoor section versus a planting section versus a tool section. And when they do purchase orders, lawn and garden stores like to have the purchase orders reflect which cost center they need to be billed to. Cost center only goes on a purchase order. There's really not much more that happens to that, but it's just nice because they can have it on their purchase order for their own internal use. So that's just something worth you seeing. So now that we've covered all the different things, the idea behind this is, again, being part of a sales group is it's important for all of you, I understand, to make sure that your business is thriving and that every time you go to a business, it's time well spent. And when you have the expertise on each one of these businesses and you know what their key trigger points are and what can really differentiate our system to be perfect for their business versus what they're using at that moment, it adds value to that sales process. So I highly recommend that you keep these on hand so that whenever you want to go through and practice a demo, or you know that you're going to go out for a demo, you know what items and what details you want to set up before you get there. And that way you feel prepared. You don't feel as if you have to rush through a specific part of the program or kind of skim over it because you're not certain on it. This is meant to really help with that sales process. So with the CAP suggested selling method, here's what we do. Have the agenda that we just discussed for your vertical market specifically. And just for your reference, we have all of these marketing materials directly on the reseller main page so that you can go through and you'll see the key features listed on each one of the brochures. You're welcome to take one of these with you, customize it for your business, leave it with the customer, but also use it as your reference point so when you're doing your demo, you know what you're covering. And from there, once you have yourself prepared and ready to go, when you get to that business, let the customer tell their story. What is your pain point, Mr. Customer? What do you not like about your system that you have right now? Tell me what it is that you're wanting to see improve for your business. Once you've heard that, demonstrate the key solutions that we've just gone through for their business specifically. Tie back to their pain points. Here's how CAP Sellwise can make a difference for you. You know, you say that you have a hard time tracking serial numbers, it's not working for you, the system's clunky. CAP can do that for you easily. Let me show you how. Let me show you the reports that actually track on that for you. And then the other details that may not have been pain points, for example, rental items. Maybe they don't do rentals at that point in time. Show those details for later options. When you're going through the sales process, it's very easy for a customer to glaze over because there's so much that's being covered, and once you've hit their pain points, they're kind of done. These for later options are just a great way to say, and you know what, once you get comfortable with it, we'll go through this and maybe this can help your business in the future. And then ask for their feedback. So when we're going out for those demos, it's really important, we covered this yesterday, if you were on the call yesterday, it's very important that we are demo ready. Okay, good demonstrations can make or really break a sale. These are the things that are going to make your customer realize that you're the expert and that we are better than the other competition. When you look at PC America, when you look at InfoTouch, yes, I believe that we are much better than them just on a standpoint of how we look and how we feel and how we're easy to use. But I'm not going to disparage those businesses when I'm talking to a customer or one of your customers. What I'm going to say is that here's how I know that I'm the best. I can do this. My system can do this. My system can do this. And when I have a demo database that is complete and that has quick examples that I can reference, it really helps make that much more of a solid story for the customer. So we looked at this yesterday. If you weren't on the call yesterday, what it included is we want to make sure that when we have our main lookup screens for names, inventory, and vendors, that they're full. You don't have to have multiple pages to scroll through, but you do want to have them complete. Don't have missing address fields. Don't have missing phone numbers. Don't have missing names. And please don't put fake customer. Please make up a name. Make it look like it's something that's real. Include both customer and business details as well. And then create a robust inventory. Make sure you have at least one matrix item. Make sure that you have sample departments, subdepartments, and classes. It's nice for a customer to see how far they can go. They may not want to hit the end point. They may only be interested in departments when all is said and done, but the fact that they know that they can break hardware down into electronic devices versus manual devices, that's something that matters to hardware businesses and other related fields. Make sure your quick keys and your hotkeys and your multi-pause keys are set up so that if somebody wants to see how you can customize, you don't have to spend 25 minutes doing it. It's already there and ready for you. And then make sure your tender keys are full. I think that it makes the system look like it's incomplete when we have cash and check. When you have multiple tender keys that go across the bottom of the screen, it just adds value. And then turn on your membership tracking and recurring billing. In the name section of CAP Sellwise, your membership tracking and recurring billing options will not appear. It will leave a blank space unless you turn them on. So that's just good information for you to know. And then obviously you have sample promo pricing, mix and match, and tag formats. But when we go into the service-related industry, there are a few more details that I really think you should include. You want to make sure you have a rental department set and that you have items ready to sell to return if a customer wants to see how that works. Again, you don't want to be setting that up on the fly. Make sure that you have a pick list printer turned on, and that you also have other settings that we'll go through in a moment configured so that you can actually use the pick list if somebody's interested in it. Have work orders pre-made. Go through and just create a work order pretty quickly. It's not hard, and that way you have one set. And then set up customers who can charge on account. Make sure that there's a balance that you can show to a customer. Make sure you can show an account history of charges and how to create a statement. Create your sample serial number tag. This is really key for these service-related industries. Almost every single one of these, or actually all 4 of these that I'm looking at today, I have yet to see one that does not have serial number somewhere. Have extended descriptions set on an item as well. Those are really key for returns and for warranties. And then also make sure that you have multiple units of measure set. So with that being said, let me go ahead. I'm going to show you my demo database. I'm going to show you the few things that are really necessary for you to configure so that when you go to these settings, or when you go through that list and you go to set up your sample data, you know where to configure it quickly. So first and foremost, yesterday we talked about having good demo data, including names and things. You'll want the additional information to be turned on, but I'm not going to cover that today. Cost centers is right here. This is where you're going to set up things for like lawn and garden. Okay? These different codes, the only time you're going to see them in the program is when you're creating a purchase order. It's going to ask to which cost center you want something to be billed to. And once you have these set, it's just going to go ahead and adjust for that so that when a purchase order can come through, the purchasing or receiving person can send that over to the appropriate department. It's just that simple. There's not really much more to it than that, that it just puts this on the actual PO. Then again, when you set up your departments, you're going to need to set up a rental department. So here's how rental items work. You're going to want to set a department and just name it rental. And you're going to want to make note of what the code is for that department specifically. So this code is 077.000.000. Once I have my rental department set here, I'm going to cancel out, and then I'm going to go to my phone, shipping, and lottery and miscellaneous section. And I'm going to scroll all the way down until I get to my other. And in other, this is where I'm going to put my rental department code. So I key in exactly what I found in my department section. I would accept my changes here. If I had actually made some at this moment, I would do that. And then I would cancel out. Then from there, to continue creating a rental, or to finish out the rental piece, you go into your inventory and you're going to create a rental item. So I have one that's preset, my rental steam cleaner. So you go through and you set up your item just as you would any other item. The key thing to note is that you're going to want to make sure you have your rental department set for your item that you're going to be obviously renting out. And you're also going to want to set your item to be serialized. Now, once you have that, you need to receive stock in. So you'll want to create a purchase order, receive the stock in, attach your serial numbers to it so that you can have serial numbers on hand. Okay? And once you have that set, selling out a rental piece of equipment is just as easy as going into the point of sale and selling out the item, making sure that you attach a name and a serial number to it. I attach my serial number. I have it prompted through configuration to prompt for the serial number when I ring something out. And I'm going to select exact change. I'm going to turn my printer off. And I'm going to select exact change, and I'm going to ring that out. Now once that item comes back to me, or let me show you my extended description, by the way. Let's find my transaction. This is what I just sold. Now, I have an extended description set on that item, by the way. This is what it would look like. I have my details specifically under here for this rental steam cleaner. I have terms on if something's late and if there's a damage to it, what the damage charges are. And if you don't agree with this, please don't take it out of the store. You know, whatever terms the merchant wants to put on for an extended description, they can show here. And if I had additional items on the sale, they would show under the extended description for this particular piece of equipment. And let me show you where in inventory, before I move forward, that extended description was set up. Under my rental steam cleaner, on my messages tab, when I set up my item and I put in my rental department and I made it serialized, I went also to this messages tab, and this is where my extended description was placed. And it's a free-form field. You can type all the details that you need and save it. And once you're done, that's how it will show on your point of sale, on your 80-column invoices when they print. So now, let's go ahead and return this equipment. So I bring back up the name to whom the item was sold, and I go ahead and I put the item back into my sale, and when it pulls up, it's going to ask me what my serial number was. Well, right now I'm not putting a new one in because I'm not selling it. This is a returned item. So I'm going to select return, and it's going to know that I have quite a few items that were sold out. So let's say for today, I don't remember which one I did, but we'll just go ahead and return this one in. I'm going to accept the item. Oh, I picked the wrong one. But we'll just go ahead and say yes. It's going to say return to stock. I'm going to say yes. And I have right now my return tracking turned on, so rental return is one of my options there, so I'm going to accept that. And you'll see that it's being returned at $0. And because it was part of a rental department, that is why it's coming back at $0. If I had this listed under any other department for this item, it would not come back at $0. It would come back at the amount that I originally sold it for. And then I just go ahead and select the exact change, and my transaction for rentals is complete. Now let's go one step further, and let's also look at my reports. When I'm working with serial numbers for rental departments, I can look at my acquisition and disposition report, and I'm going to select these two items. What the acquisition and disposition report is going to do is it's going to show what items by what serial number when they were originally received into my business, what the item description was in its stock locator, what vendor I purchased it from, and then it's going to show who I actually sold this item to and what the invoice number was that went along with that sale. That's what the acquisition and disposition report is going to show our merchants. Then I can look at my serial numbers in stock report. We'll do the same too. And what this will do is it will show my different rental pieces, whichever ones I selected, and what stock locator, or excuse me, what serial numbers I actually have still in stock and how many. And then the last report, serial number sold. This report is going to show the stock locator that has been sold out, what serial number was attached to it, who it was sold to, their invoice date, and how many days it has been out of the business. So this is information that is very useful for hardware stores, again, for lawn and garden, and even pool and spa. Does anyone have any questions regarding rental departments and how to demo and how to set up that specific information? Okay, the next piece of information that I want to cover are pick lists. Now, pick lists are when somebody comes in or they call into a business and they say, hey Elizabeth, I'm going to be there at 4 o'clock, I need to buy X, Y, and Z, can you go ahead and pull it for me and have it ready? Sure, no problem. Pick lists give people the ability to work out of either a warehouse or stock room, and what pick list does is you go into the point of sale, you attach a name to a sale just as you normally would, and then you attach whatever items need to be pulled from stock. Sorry about that. Let me try that one more time. Once you have your items set for your pick list, then as long as your configuration settings are turned on, which I'll show you how to do in just a second, you can go to Operations and select Pick List. And what it will do is it's going to put the last name, which right now I have as department, the month and the date as my reference point. And because my printer's turned on and I have it configured correctly, it's going to print me a list. It's going to look similar to an invoice, but instead of saying invoice, it's going to say pick list at the top. I would take that pick list, I would hand it to my employee, and they would go pull that stock for me off the shelf so that it's ready to ring up whenever somebody comes in. When that person comes in to ring it out, they just simply go to Operations, find pick list, and they can search by either today's date or they can know what the reference number is, and I happen to know that it was this because we just discussed it. And I press Accept, and it will bring up my items, and I can just go ahead and tender it out like I normally would. Now here are the keys that you need to know for setting up pick lists. When you're in configuration, you need to set up a few different things. Number one, under Store Settings, you need to have it where it says Suspend Sale After Pick List or Printing Pick List, right here, Inventory Reserved. It's in the POS section. You need this to be selected to say yes. And what that does is when a pick list is printed, it means that it's going to take that inventory into a suspended status so that somebody else doesn't come in and buy it out from underneath the person that was actually asking for it to be reserved. Then you need to go into Station Settings, and you're going to want it to say Use Pick List when in warehouse. Let me find that real fast. Right here, under POS Functions, Use Pick List in warehouse. You're going to want that to be set to yes as well so that the pick list function will work for you. And last but not least, for pick list to work, you actually have to have a printer assigned to this second to last option that's here, pick list printer. When all of that is configured, the system is just as simple to use as what we just went through. Does anybody have any questions on pick lists? Okay. Now the next thing is, as we mentioned, because we're working in a service-related industry, I'm actually going to go back into configuration. Because we're working in a service-related industry, there are quite a few businesses, like I mentioned, the pools and spa, or even tires and auto parts centers, where they're going to have people going out performing service work. Okay? And so they're going to need to be able to take a laptop or a handheld computer of some sort with them so that they can ring out service fees and charge as needed while they're actually on site. When they want to go into mobile mode, all they need to do is go into Utilities before they disconnect from the business and click on this Mobile Mode button right here. And what it's going to say is Enable Mobile Mode, Show Temporary Reports. You can leave that set to No or turn it to Yes, and then use EDC in Mobile Mode. If you want to process credit cards, you're going to need that to be set to Yes. And when they press Yes or Enable Mobile Mode, what it's going to do is take a snapshot of their inventory at that very moment, and it's going to disconnect this computer from the network. The service tech can go out, perform business, ring transactions, run credit cards if they need to, finish out their day. When they come back into the store, they'll go back into this Utilities feature, and it will say Return to Store. And they just click on this, and it will sync all of their sales back into the business so that everything balances at the end of the day. Okay? So that's how mobile mode is set. Again, that is very useful for tire and auto parts stores as well as pool and spa. Now, work orders are the next thing I'd like to show you. The idea on a work order is that somebody comes into a business, let's say we're in a hardware store, and they want to have paint mixed. What they need to do is the employee will ring out the business or ring out the name, figure out what item they're selling, and I'm going to choose paint mixing. And then they're going to go ahead and they're going to go to Operations, and they're going to create a work order. Now this one already has a work order that's attached to it, so I'm going to add to this. Let's say customer had 3 keys. We're going to say paint mixing also requested. I'm going to go ahead and accept this work order for Billy's Clothing Emporium, and I'm going to suspend down my sale. Now what that will do, you can see that I could print that as well. It's going to create a reference point for this customer. And if I were to print this, If I were to print this, I again would have, instead of like a pick list or an invoice printout, I'd have a work order printed out with all of those notes attached to it. Now what I can also do is I can go into this customer's name record now, and I can look at Billy's Clothing Emporium, and what work orders will do is it's going to automatically add notes directly into the notes section right here. So where I just put paint mixing also requested, that's going to be added into the notes so that there's a reference along with the work order that printed out. Once all business is done, the work orders are tracked, the employees are done, everything's ready, and the customer comes to pick up their item, all the merchant needs to do, or the employee, is just go to Operations, Work Order, and find the one that they actually just went ahead and took care of. They'll accept it in, and they'll be able to close out the sale directly by taking their tender, or add anything else as needed. Does anyone have any questions on work orders? Okay. So then, let's go into setting up tags. As I mentioned, part of having a really good demo database is you've got to make sure that you have tags that are ready for people to review. If they want to see what's going to happen, when you pull up tags, they need to have different options. So I've got an employee badge set up, a furniture tag set up, a jewelry tag that's set up, serial number, shelf tags, and a main store price tag. For our reference today, since we're working in service-related businesses more so than not, I'm going to select my serial number tag. And the nice thing about having them already set is all I have to do is double-click, and I can say, look, this is just one example of how you can set something up. When you put in different fields, you click on link data, and it will show you what's actually going to be created through this tag program by referencing my inventory database, just because I put a link right here. So I've got my item ID set up as a barcode. This field is representing a description. And then I've got my serial number linked right here as well, so that I can create tags for serialized items. And when we talk about tags in this capacity, it's nice to say you can create tags here. You can also create them directly from an inventory record, or you can create them directly from a purchase order. It's just that easy. And the nice thing is once you have that tag created, you don't have to spend 20 minutes formatting tags every time you want to print one. You already have it preset for reference later on. Does anybody have any questions regarding tags? Okay. Last but not least, what I'd like to show you today is under configuration. As I mentioned, hardware stores have a really big hot button when it comes to setting up units of measure. It's a really easy thing to set up, and it's very nice to have it for your demo, so there's no reason not to do it. I recommend having things such as each, pound, you could put foot, liter, ounce, whatever is specific to your marketplace. Have multiple options here so that people can go in and see that they can really work with scalable items, they can work with items that are just sold as singles, whatever's relevant to their business. And show them that once you have it set there, all they have to do is when they go into an inventory item and they set it up for the first time or even later, they can select that unit of measure simply by selecting change and clicking on this drop-down menu and picking whichever one they need. So by using all these different things that we've discussed for these 4 marketplaces, it really helps to make you look like you're the expert in the business, as you should be, and really kind of helps hit those trigger points that merchants have whenever they're trying to figure out what system they want to go with. Does anyone have any questions regarding my demo data or the information that we've just covered, pick lists, work orders, whatever else you might have just seen? Okay, so from here, what I recommend is really, when it comes to these demos and working in these vertical markets, please make sure you take a second to reach out to us if you have questions. I can help get you sample demo data. I'm a very key believer that demo data is imperative. It needs to be strong and it needs to look good so that you look that much better when you're going through something. Reach out to your territory manager for suggestions. I talk to my resellers on a daily basis, and it's not uncommon for us to go through their demos to do it as a refresher or just even for some ideas. There are a few industries that we didn't cover here that we have worked with in the past. Convenience stores being one. We also work with firearms distributors. as well as we have a few different consignment shops. It's not one of our key markets. It's kind of tricky to work with them, but we can go through your demos and help you and answer questions so that your demo is that much stronger when you go on site. And if you'd like to talk to other resellers, I can get you connected. Derek can get you connected to other people who have worked very specifically within various verticals. We have some resellers that only sell to liquor stores, like what we covered yesterday. Then we have some resellers that cover 5 or 6 different verticals. We can get you if that's what you need. And then please make sure you have updated collateral. When you go on site, if you know you're going to one of these verticals, we have these pieces available for you to customize. If you don't have the tools to customize them with your business information, reach out to us. We can help you get those customized so that they do have your business logo and your business contact information. We want to help drive business to you. So last but not least, with these verticals as well, a lot of people these days ask for referrals. If you need that, reach out to Derek and I. We can help you. It might take us a few days. We don't give customer information without their permission, but we'd be happy to help you find referrals if you need them. So with that being said, that really covers what I have today. What questions do you have? Does anyone have anything they'd like me to cover a little bit further? Okay, well with that being said then, I'd like to say thank you for joining us today. I appreciate your attendance. And if you have any questions, reach out to us at any time. We're here to help.
Making me look bad to the customer. Go, what problem?
Guys.
If he does. I'm not sure, but I'm telling you, he's going to call you.